Hey, future respiratory therapist. So if you've seen my other videos on ABG interpretations, then you know that I have some out there for metabolic alkalosis, metabolic acidosis, respiratory alkalosis, respiratory acidosis. And they're there for you to learn from and understand the difference in compensated, uncompensated, partially compensated. And I hope they're helping you. But what I want to do today is something that I do with all of my students. And I do it because I think this truly takes your understanding of arterial blood gases to the next level. So I'm going to challenge you right now while you're out there at home and maybe you're on break right now and you're thinking to yourself, I got to get back into clinic mode and I need to look over arterial blood gases and all that stuff. And I want to practice before I get back. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're just like, I'm going to go in there and wing it. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do. I don't really care as long as you're there and you're practicing. When you're in the clinic hospital and in the clinic setting and you're interpreting these blood gases correctly. Now, a lot of people use arrows to interpret blood gases, and I don't have a problem with that except for the fact that I have a problem with it. If you're looking and learning how to interpret blood gases based off of arrows, these two arrows go up, these two go down, this one goes up, this one goes down, this one goes sideways, blah, 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 then you're learning more on how to just interpret when all the numbers are there in front of you and you have a perfect scenario, okay? But it doesn't really tell you if you're really understanding what's happening in the body. And that's my goal here, is to help you truly understand what happens when interpreting arterial blood gases and what's really going on inside the body. So my method here is learn how to interpret blood gases with only two values. And you can do this, and if you can, then you're going to wow your instructors, you're going to wow your professors, and you're going to show them that, I have a greater understanding than just drawing arrows up and arrows down. Okay? So we do this by taking two values, leaving the third one blank, and you interpreting the blood gas. So let's start off with some easy ones, okay? All right, question is, what's your bicarb value and how do you interpret this blood gas? Well, let's break it down. You have a normal pH, you have a normal CO2. If both of those values are normal, then guess what your bicarb has to be? Normal, right? That's exactly right. It has to be normal. Within the range of 22 to 26. Now, I just put 24 up here because it's right in the middle and it's exact, okay? So that's simple, right? But this blood gas would interpret as normal. Okay? Let's do another one. Now, if you're looking at me going, Joe, why are you using a koozie to erase your whiteboard? Then my answer is because I can. And your question may be, why don't you just go buy a whiteboard eraser? And my answer is because I don't need to. And so I'm going to digress here for a second. This takes me back to the early days of respiratory therapy when we actually used to achieve goals with whatever tools we had. We could figure out a way to make something else work, okay? So if you ever need a good whiteboard eraser, can always use a koozie. Now, I don't recommend using your favorite koozie because I recommend using that to keep your beer cold, okay? But a koozie will work to help erase your whiteboard, okay? I also showed you my favorite koozie so that you know that I'm just like you. I like beer. I like to enjoy drinks. I like to share knowledge with you guys. And I hope that when you're watching these videos, you recognize that I'm not good at a lot of things, one of them being videos, right? But the information that's being shared is genuine and it's real and it's coming from somebody just like you, okay? So I hope you enjoy it from that perspective. Let's do another one here real quick. So we got a pH of 7.42. We have a bicarb of 24. Now, if your pH is 7.42 and your bicarb is 24, how do you interpret this blood gas? It's normal. That's exactly right. If you have a normal pH and you have a normal bicarb, then your CO2 has to be in normal range. Okay? So it's going to fall somewhere on the ballpark of 35 to 45. I'm going to go with 38 here. Okay? And this is a normal blood gas. Okay? Now, we've done two normal ones. Pretty simple. Do you see where I'm going with this? Do you see how this works? You got to break it down and understand what each component is telling you about your patient. Okay? So let's do another one. All right, so let's say we have a pH of 730. Okay, so you have an acidotic pH. Now you should, in your mind, already be thinking to yourself, something's causing the pH to go down. So what would it be? So if I told you that the bicarb was 24, then how would you interpret this blood gas? That's right. You would interpret this blood gas as an uncompensated respiratory acidosis, right? Because if the pH is down and the bicarb is normal, then what's causing the pH to go down? It has to be the respiratory system. So your CO2 has to be elevated. So you have to have a high CO2 that's pushing the pH down. Makes sense, right? Easy enough. All right, let's do another one. Let's say you have a pH of 7.60 and your CO2 is 43 and that's all you have. Then how are you going to interpret this blood gas? Something's causing your pH to go up, and you know that your CO2 is in normal range, so you know that your bicarb is elevated, right? So your bicarb has to be up. Let's just go with 30, okay? So this would be an uncompensated metabolic alkalosis, right? You see how this works? You don't really, rarely do you actually ever need all three values, okay? So we're going to do, I got two more for you, and then I'll leave you and you can adopt this method to really practicing and really becoming better at ABGs or not. If you're like, man, I don't buy that, and so you're not going to do it, then don't do it. I don't really care. I'm just trying to help. All right. So let's go with 7.36, okay? And let's go with a bicarb of 34. Now this one is a little harder, okay? I'm going to draw the box here because this is what the question mark is, well, what is the CO2, okay? How do we interpret this blood gas if we only have two values and one of them is elevated? Well, let's just think about this for a second. You have a pH 7.36. It's on the normal side, but it's acidotic. It's on the normal side of acidosis, okay? And your bicarb is elevated. Now, if your bicarb is elevated, then you know that your bicarb is compensating for an elevated CO2, okay? So what's causing it to be on the acidotic side of the pH just inside normal range? Now you have to understand that your CO2 can't be normal, because if your CO2 was normal, then your pH would be what in this situation? That's right, your pH would be up, but your pH is not up. It's actually in normal range. So you know right now that you're dealing with a compensated blood gas, okay? And you're dealing with here a fully compensated respiratory acidosis, okay? Some may call this chronic ventilatory failure. I shorthanded it for CVF, okay? So you're exactly right. Your CO2 in this case is elevated. Your CO2 went up, it pushed your pH down, and your bicarb rose in response to compensate to bring your pH back in to normal range. You have a compensated respiratory acidosis, chronic ventilatory failure. One more for you here, and then I'll let you marinate on it. Give me your thoughts, your comments, your concerns, if you like it, if you don't, if I'm helping you, if I'm not. So let's go with this. 710, and let's go with a CO2 of 50. Now, again, this one is complicated. Haven't done any videos over this topic yet. I will, but I haven't done them yet. When you look at this, you have to understand that a CO2 of 50 would cause you to have an acidotic pH. But a CO2 of 50 would not cause you to have a pH so significant down to 7.10. So you have to think, we're really acidotic, even though our CO2 is not that elevated. 35 to 45 being normal, 50 is elevated, but not to the point to cause 7.10. So you have to understand in this case that you also are going to have a metabolic disturbance also causing an acidosis. So let's say our bicarb is 16. And in this case, you have a mixed acidosis, okay? Because the pH is way too low to just be caused by a CO2 that's 5 millimeters of mercury outside of normal, okay? So you got to be able to think like this. If you can take two values off of any arterial blood gas and interpret them correctly, then congratulations. You've won. You're the champion. You've developed a skill into interpreting arterial blood gases that is well beyond the average person. Okay? Hope this helps. Leave me your comments, questions, concerns in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you're not following me on Instagram, please do so at Respiratory Coach, Twitter at Coach RRT, and just feel free to reach out to me however you feel the need to, and I'll be glad to help you in any way I can. Good luck, guys.